In Peru, the public prosecutor's office summoned President Nigeria Morocco to answer for the death registered during the protests in December 2022 and January 2023. In Russia, the defense ministry denounced Kiev's attempt to attack Russian fleet ships in Black Sea's Bosphorus Strait. And UN Secretary General Antonio Gutierrez called on nations to immediately ramp up funding to prevent a catastrophe in the Horn of Africa. Hello, welcome to From the South. I'm Luis Alberto Matos from teleSUR Studios in Havana, Cuba. We begin with the news. In Peru, the public prosecutor's office summoned appointed President Dina Boluarte to answer for the death registered at national level during the protests carried out between December 2022 and January 2023. The proceeding is part of the investigation against the president for the alleged crime of genocide and has been scheduled for Wednesday, May 31st. The head of state's lawyer, Joseph Campos, welcomed the disposition of the prosecutor's office and announced that his client will attend the summons. Campos stressed that the executive power has asked the public prosecutor's office to speed up the investigations into the death toll of at least 60 people who died during the days of protests in the country, especially in the regions of Puno, Arequipa, Cusco, Apurímac, and Ayacucho. On Wednesday, the 7th Commission of the Chamber of Representatives of the Colombian Congress approved the health reform proposed by the government of Gustavo Petro with 14 votes in favor and 6 votes against. The Commission approved 143 articles that will change the country's health system and will allow Colombians to have a healthcare model with quality infrastructure, health workers with proper salary, working conditions, and patients with comprehensive care, the Health Ministry said on Twitter. Also, President Petro congratulated the congressman for the approval of the initiative, considered one of the pillars of his government. The reform proposes an operating model in which primary care centers and the comprehensive and integrated networks will be made up of public, private, and mixed entities.
I want you to realize of this ramification of this decision you have made today. This reform will definitely improve the lives of people for whom access to health care was an aspiration, not a right.
Guatemala's former presidential candidate for the Citizen Prosperity Party, Carlos Pineda, requested the Supreme Court of Justice to suspend the printing of electoral ballots. The claim follows the electoral authority's decision to print the ballots without Pineda's photo after a court suspended his candidacy due to what it considered irregularities of his party. Pineda's lawyers filed the appeal to the Supreme Court on Wednesday against the Supreme Electoral Tribunal on the grounds that his suspension was temporary and his status as candidate had not been legally resolved. Pineda claims that the electoral entity must wait for the final result of the case. The election is scheduled to take place next June 25th. In Guatemala, the Election Observation Mission expressed its concern on Wednesday for the irregularities and growing litigations which may derive in the total loss of legitimacy of the electoral process. Through a statement, the group of civil society organizations declared that several actions stress the dysfunctionality of the entities in charge of guaranteeing the rule of law and defending the exercise of citizens' freedoms. The mission pointed out that the situation in the country is critical due to the irresponsibility of political parties, which are not adhering to the requirements of the laws, and also of the electoral authorities that failed to comply with their obligations. The EOM warned that the difficulties in democratic systems are solved with free, transparent, plural, and competitive elections. The governor of the state of Florida, Ron DeSantis, filed to the Federal Election Commission the necessary documents to run as a candidate for the 2024 presidential elections in the United States. According to local media, the news comes hours before the politician was scheduled to participate Wednesday night on the Twitter Spaces audio platform in a conversation with tycoon Elon Musk, where he is expected to announce his participation in the presidential race. The conversation will be moderated by David Sachs, a tech entrepreneur close to the social network owner. According to event organizers, the launch will closely link the tech billionaire with DeSantis, considered one of the rising stars of the Republican Party. The 44-year-old DeSantis' intention to run for president has long been trumpeted in the media, which considers him former President Donald Trump's main rival for the Republican nomination. On Tuesday, former Panamanian President Ricardo Martinelli faced trials on corruption charges for alleged money laundering after having been acquitted in 2 previous trials on charges of wiretapping. The former president and 19 other people are being tried in a new business case opened by the public prosecutor's office in 2017. This consists of a complex scheme of bank transfers through which illicit funds were transferred to the company for the sum of $43 million for the purchase of Editora Panama America. In addition to this process, Martinelli will also face between August and October, together with his 2 sons and the also former president Juan Carlos Varela, another trial for bribes from the Brazilian consulting firm Odebrecht. Let's take a short break, but remember you can join us on TikTok at teleSUR English, where you will find news in different formats, news updates, and much more. All the stories coming up. Stay with us. Welcome back from the south. On Wednesday, during the 11th international meeting of high-level officials responsible for security issues, President Biden reported affirmed that Russia, together with other countries, would assuredly achieve a fair world order. Also, Putin assured that Russia was ready to engage in the closest level of interaction with all interested countries in efforts to counteract common threat and tackle the challenges that humankind is facing today. Separately, Putin talked about the significance of the conference for the global situation, noting that over the years, regular interactions between security officials aimed at sharing their expertise and assessments have proven their utility and relevance. Finally, Putin hoped the meeting to be constructive and produce useful results while helping to determine new methods and areas for practical cooperation for the benefit of countries and peoples and in the interest of peace and stability on the planet.
We see that the current international situation is characterized by increasing instability. In different regions, the old centers of tension are expanding with the new ones emerging. The negative burden of conflicts is accumulating. The people of many countries are experiencing the dramatic consequences of coups organized from outside. This state of affairs is directly related to the desire of individual states and associations to preserve, maintain their dominance, and impose their own rules, completely ignoring the sovereignty, national interest, and traditions of other states. All this accompanied by a build-up of military potential, unceremonious interference in the internal affairs of other countries, as well as attempts to extract unilateral advantages from the energy and food crisis provoked by a number of Western states.
Leaders of the Eurasian Economic Union countries met in Moscow on Wednesday to discuss regional economic cooperation. The meeting was held one day before the bloc's Supreme Council meets on Thursday. During the meeting, Kazakh President Kassym-Jomart Tokayev underlined the unique economic and political weight of Russia and Belarus in the Union and called on leaders to consider its significance during the discussion of further integration plans on Thursday. On the other hand, Belarus President Alexander Lukashenko said that the Western countries didn't succeed in impeding the Union countries' technological industries. Kyrgyzstan President Sadir Safarov, on his part, praised the independence of the Union. The Eurasian Economic Union is formed by Russia, Belarus, Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan, and Armenia.
You have noticed that they have been trying to bend us for 3 years and nothing. Almost everything that must fly is flying. Everything is firing, and so on. It means that we can do something and that we are already doing it.
The Eurasian Economic Union is becoming an independent and self-sufficient pole of economic development, and it can independently meet the needs of participants in foreign economic activity.
Russian Foreign Ministry spokeswoman Maria Zakharova on Wednesday took a dig at threats by the U.S. State Department to levy restrictions on Georgia over its move to resume flights with Russia. According to Zakharova, there is and can be no rational explanation for why the U.S. considers it possible to comment on agreements between two sovereign countries. Earlier, the U.S. State Department threatened to impose sanctions on any company providing maintenance services to Russian aircraft at Georgian airports. Russian President Vladimir Putin on May 10th signed a decree to abolish visas for Georgian citizens as of May 15th. In another decree, he lifted the ban on direct flights by Russian airlines to Georgia that Moscow had maintained since 2019. The Russian Defense Ministry denounced Kiev's attempt to attack Russian fleet ships in Black Sea's Bosphorus Strait. Through a statement, the military authority informed that the Ukrainian forces carried out an attempt to attack with unmanned boats a Russian ship in charge of ensuring the safety of the Turk Stream and Blue Stream gas pipelines in the exclusive economic zone of Turkey. The Russian military agency added that all the enemy ships were destroyed 140 kilometers northeast of the Bosphorus Strait.
Today at 5:30 a.m., the armed forces of Ukraine made an unsuccessful attempt to attack the Ivan Kerch ship of the Black Sea Fleet with 3 unmanned speedboats. The ship is performing tasks to ensure the safety of the functioning of the Turkish Stream and Blue Stream gas pipelines in the exclusive economic zone of the Republic of Turkey. All enemy boats were destroyed by strikes from the standard armament of a Russian ship 140 kilometers northeast of the Bosporus. The ship Ivan Kerch of the Black Sea Fleet continues to fulfill its tasks.
At the opening ceremony of the plenary session of the Second Eurasian Economic Forum of the Eurasian Economic Union, Chinese President Xi Jinping said his nation is ready to work with member states to pursue the progress of civilization in a multipolar world.
In the second half of this year, China will hold a Third Belt and Road Forum with international cooperation. We're willing to work with participating countries of the Belt and Road Cooperation and member states of the Eurasian Economic Union to continue to hold high the banner of peace, development, cooperation and win-win outcomes, share opportunities, overcome difficulties, create a future together, and jointly write a new chapter in the progress of a civilization in a multipolar world.
The Chinese president also called for a deeper synergy between the Belt and Road Initiative and the Eurasian Economic Union as China looks to enhance its cooperation with the organization's member states.
This year marks the 10th anniversary of my proposal of the Belt and Road Initiative. The immutable goal of this initiative is to explore new ways for close and faraway countries to achieve common development and to open up a path of happiness that benefits the whole world. China sincerely hopes that the synergy between the Belt and Road Initiative and the Eurasian Economic Union will be deepened, and all countries will work together with unity and dedication to open up new prospects for Asia-Europe cooperation.
In the United Kingdom, the National Statistics Office reported Wednesday that the gross domestic product stagnated in February compared to the previous month. Darren Morgan, Director of Economic Statistics, pointed out that the economy suffered changes due to the strikes of public sector employees and teachers. According to data from the institution, in January the GDP grew 0.4%, while in February it dropped to 0.3%. Many sectors have mobilized in recent months to demand better working conditions following rising prices and inflation of over 10%. teleSUR English continues to grow. You can now tune in from 33 different African countries through StarSat. Dial 461 and enjoy Latin American alternative broadcasts. One final short break, we'll be right back. Don't go away. Welcome back from the South. On Wednesday, UN Secretary General Antonio Gutierrez called on nations to immediately ramp up funding to prevent a catastrophe in the Horn of Africa, which is suffering its worst drought in generations. According to the United Nations, more than 43 million people across Somalia, Ethiopia, and Kenya are in urgent need of life-saving and life-sustaining assistance. In Somalia alone, the number of people displaced now stands at 3.8 million, with 6.7 million people struggling to find food, according to the UN and Norwegian Refugee Council. Deaths from hunger are on the rise in Africa because of droughts worsened by climate change and conflict. Devastating drought in the Horn of Africa could not have occurred without the effects of greenhouse gas emissions, the World Weather Attribution Group said in a report released in April. Since late 2020, countries on the Horn of Africa have been suffering the worst drought in 40 years.
This moment of difficulty and danger for the people of the Horn of Africa, we cannot stand idly by. Let us act together now with greater urgency and for greater support. Crisis atop of crisis is threatening the lives and livelihoods of millions across the Horn of Africa. The longest drought on record, mass displacement after years of conflict and insecurity, skyrocketing food prices, and now chaos and fighting have engulfed Sudan, radiating instability across the entire region.
Authorities of Nigeria and Morocco move forward in the project to build a gas pipeline through 11 countries of the African Atlantic coast. The project, considered a mega pipeline, will pump billions of cubic meters of fuel and has been in charge of Nigeria and Morocco since 2016. The $25 million investment will supply hydrocarbons to West Africa and Europe. The promoters of the project, which is 5 times longer than Nord Stream 1, point out that the pipeline is contributing to peace in Africa and will expand the market for Nigeria's gas. Syrians predict that their country's recent return to the Arab League would lead to an economic opening towards Syria and an increase of Arab investments in all sectors of the country's industry, a rapprochement that they hope will help overcome the economic crisis that has plagued their lives for more than a decade. Our correspondent Hisham Wanus with the details.
The Damascus Chamber of Industry, in addition to analyzing the problems that Syrian manufacturers are facing and the ways to solve them, emphasized the need to take advantage of the current Arab rapprochement with Syria to attract investments in a way that will have a positive impact on the economy, especially on the national industrial sector, whose losses due to the war and the blockade exceed $150 billion.
In the context of the Arab reopening to Syria and the recent participation of President Bashar al-Assad in the Arab Summit in Jeddah, hope for an early improvement of the situation has grown, and we believe that we will soon see the practical results of these improvements.
The current priority is to increase production and guarantee the necessary raw materials in order to take advantage of the Arab reopening to Syria, especially in terms of optimizing the industrial work environment to increase export to neighboring countries of products that can compete in terms of quality and price.
Syrian industrial production, although reduced by the war and the blockade, has never stopped. The low level of exports, the drain of skilled labor, the oil crisis and the lack of machinery and spare parts are among the difficulties resulting from Western coercive measures, which Syrian businessmen hope to overcome with the help of the Arab brothers.
We will take advantage of the current positive atmosphere of Arab rapprochement in order to organize a series of specialized fairs of national products inside and outside the country to win back the Arab and regional markets with a new and promising aspect of the Syrian industry.
Western coercive measures limit our export capacity, but with the current Arab reopening to our country, we can find mechanisms to overcome the limitations that hinder exports, which will guarantee new income that will help improve the industrial sector, as well as the situation of the national economy.
Another problem we face lies in the lack of manpower and human potential, as many are living as refugees abroad as a result of the war, and therefore we invite Syrian refugees and industrialists to return to their country so that we can rebuild Syria with the hands of their own children.
Syria, in addition to its geographical location that allows it to be an industrial and commercial intermediary, has 4 industrial zones equipped with all the necessary requirements for investments in the field of small, medium, and heavy industry. These factors, added to the promising investment opportunities that the country has, pave the way for the new era of Syrian Arab economic and industrial integration, for the benefit of both the Syrian people and the other brotherly Arab peoples.
Hisham Wanus, teleSUR, Damascus, Syria.
U.S. singer Tina Turner, who rocketed to stardom with soul classics and pop hits like The Best and What's Love Got to Do With It, has died at the age of 83. The U.S.-born singer left a hardscrabble farming community and abusive relationship to become one of the top recording artists of all time. According to her representative, she died peacefully after a long illness in her home in Kuznach near Zurich, Switzerland. Turner began her career in the 1950s during the early years of rock and roll and evolved into an MTV phenomenon. Nicknamed the Queen of Rock and Roll, Turner won 6 of her 8 Grammy Awards in the 1980s, a decade that saw her land a dozen songs on the top 40, including Typical Male, The Best, Private Dancer, and Better Be Good to Me. In her 1988 show in Rio de Janeiro drew 180,000 people, which remains one of the largest concert audiences for any single performer. We have come to the end of this news brief. You can find these and many other stories on our website, telesurenglish.net. Also join us on social media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Telegram, and TikTok. For Telesur English, I'm Luis Alberto Matos. Thank you for watching.